Good evening, everyone. My name is Abhishek Jain, and I'm pleased to invite you all to the first episode of the Know Your Exam or the KYE series by Planty. In this session, we would be focusing on the CAT entrance exam. Today, we are very fortunate to have with us Lakshya Kumar, who is currently pursuing his MBA in the 2020-2022 batch from IIM Calcutta. He secured a 99.99 percentile in CAT 2019. In today's session, Lakshya will be speaking in detail on the CAT exam, how to prepare for it, and how to score well in the same. I would now like to hand it over to Lakshya to begin the session.
All right. Hi, everyone. First off, I'd like to thank the Plan T team for conducting this session. I believe these sort of sessions are very important, especially when you consider the pandemic and the associated myths with the examination as well. So I think these sessions are very important to bust all those myths around it. I'll be talking about CAT, which is which is also the common admission test. This test is essentially for any good institute in which you might want to pursue an MBA in, and hence I'll be talking about it. A brief introduction about myself. I am, as Abhishek pointed out, I had a 99.99 percentile in CAT, and I'm currently pursuing an MBA from IIM Calcutta. I pursued my bachelor's in management studies from Shahid Sukhdev College, which is a part of Delhi University. If you want to break up the CAT percentile, which people love to, the VARC section I had a 99.98 percentile, in DILR I had 99.98, and quant aptitude I had a 99.7. These are the terms that you cannot understand right now. I'll make sure that you get these terms and what these sections imply and how to prepare for them in the next couple of minutes. I'll start with the CAT examination first off. So CAT examination generally takes place around the month of November. It's a percentile-based examination. So in the end of that exam, you get a percentile, not a rank. And there are cutoffs using this percentile for different MBA colleges. It is not the final step in an MBA. It is generally combined with interviews from the institutes. So first you give CAT, and then you have interviews with the institute. This is how the general step of MBA takes. This is how MBA takes place. The entrance takes place. Coming back to CAT, again, it's a 3-hour examination which is computer-based. I believe this year, due to pandemic, they had for 2 hours, which might or might not continue for the next year. So during our discussion about strategies, I'll probably give you a couple of pointers about the 2-hour exam as well as 3-hour exam. For the past couple of years, it was a 3-hour exam, so I'll be more or less talking about that particular format only. In the CAT examination, there are 3 sections. One is your verbal ability and reading comprehension section, which is VARC. It is a timed section of 1 hour. The second section is data interpretation and logical reasoning, which again is a timed section of 1 hour. And the last section is quantitative ability, which again is a time section of 1 hour. In total, you have about 100 questions, which are divided in 34, 32, and 34 again amongst these sections. 3 hours, 1 hour each. So what I'll do is, and how I plan to take the session is that I'll pick up one session each, discuss about what sort of questions come, how you should prepare for it, and then I'll talk about the general aspects about the examination as to how you should go about preparing from, let's say, today onwards till November, which is the general date of the examination. Right. So I'll first start off with the first section, which is the English section or VARC section. Now, when I talk about verbal ability and reading comprehension, it essentially entails 34 questions, out of which 24 questions are from reading comprehension. So I'll say it is more reading comprehension than English in general. Right. So I have been asked this question a lot as to how good your vocabulary should be. Should you be good at grammar or not? And the answer to it would be that it is not necessary, though it would help you out, but it is not necessary for you to have good vocabulary or good grammatical skills, right? So how is the exam pattern? It's 24 reading comprehension questions and 10 verbal ability questions. In the past couple of years, the CAT authorities have followed a pattern. Now, it is very important for any aspiring candidate to know this pattern. Generally, the setup is that you have 5 to 6 paragraphs, which have 3 or 4 questions each. So you have 24 questions of this nature in reading comprehension. Then within the verbal ability, you have the breakup of parajumbles, which come, I think there are 4 parajumbles, there are 3 odd man out, and there are 3 other verbal ability questions. So this is the breakup. Now, within this, when you look at the breakup, you see that there are generally very less number of grammatical questions. So you don't have to be you don't have to be Shashi Tharoor to say in grammar or vocabulary to get through CAT. That is very important. Now, when we talk about reading comprehension and how to prepare for it, I believe your newspapers make a good source for it. Now, hear me out as to why I think newspapers are a good source for it. The reason is when you are giving a paper, especially an RC paper, wherein you have paragraphs and passages from different domains. They can be, you can have a passage from biology to have a passage from philosophy. So you need to switch your mind quickly and turn it around to gather and get what these specific passages are about. And I think newspaper, especially the editorial column, provides a good glimpse of it because you have newspaper passages from different domains altogether. So I think that's a good way to read it. Obviously, novels supplement your reading comprehension skills. Now, my suggestion would be that when you are reading, I would not want you to read a physical copy of your newspaper, and that's because the test is computer-based, and hence your reading speed should not be good on paper, but be good on a screen. Hence, whenever you're reading a paper, you can probably take out your mobile phone and actually make good use of it instead of, let's say, the social media are playing games. You can probably pick up a newspaper on your phone and start reading about it. So that would develop screen reading speed. I think that's very essential for reading comprehension. Now, it is also very important to about the options seem similar in reading comprehension, and they're not able to figure out where to get good reading passages or good comprehensions to practice from. Now, my suggestion to you for the practice part would be that you go back to the previous year papers or buy a mock test series from any coaching institute. Now, the coaching institute per se does not matter. What matters is that whenever you're giving any mock test, you sit through the 3-hour period and complete the test. Now, this is very important, and it's not important as to which institute you buy the mock test series from. So the first question again, which was about how when the options seem similar, what I would suggest to you is that whenever you're doing that paper and whenever you realize that the options seem similar, I'll ask you to mark that question for review and come back to it later. Now, what happens is that when you're reading a passage and it becomes and you get tired out of it, you get exhausted when you're reading a passage. So you need some change of pace, and that's why I would suggest that you go back to the next section or next question and then come back to it when you have time, especially for these questions wherein the options seem to be similar. Now, about negative marking, there is a negative marking in reading comprehension. It is +3 -1. At least that was the pattern that was followed in my year, which was 2019. There are certain questions which are typing in the answer, wherein you type in ABCD, in parajumble ABCD or BCAD, whatever it is. These sort of questions don't tend to have negative marking, but I think this is slightly this is getting into nuances instead of the broader picture. So that's more or less about reading comprehension. You have to read newspaper, you have to go for a mock test series or previous year papers, which are widely available. I think from 2000s you have the CAT papers are out there, so you can practice these questions and reading comprehensions. But so moving on to the verbal ability part of it. When we talk about verbal ability, I think that was the one weakness that I had in VARC, that I could not figure out the parajumbles. Now, how I would do is that I would give more time on verbal ability than I should, because I knew that I was not good at it. And how could I do that? I could do that because I was good at reading comprehension. I was very fast at it. Hence, I saved some time from that particular part of the section and devoted the time to verbal ability part of it. So this is something that you have to figure out. That you have to figure out which one amongst these sections and within these sections as well, which one is your strength and which one is your weakness. When you're able to decide upon that, that is when you start working towards your goal of getting a good score in CAT. Because when you know that, okay, I'm good at RC and I might not be as good at VA, you transfer your energy towards the weaker aspect by getting that strong aspect done quickly. This is how you should go about it. Now, instead of giving, let's say, 2 minutes per question, I was giving 3 minutes per question in the VA part of it because I had time for RC. So this is how I went about it. And if you want to practice parajumbles and or choose the odd man out, these sort of questions, I believe there is ample amount of material available online. You don't even need to purchase a book. But I think there are a couple of renowned authors like Arun Sharma. You have a number of coaching institutes which give you material for it. So that's good enough practice for these sort of questions. One more important thing which I'm going to reiterate in every section is that the examination level is not difficult because the questions tend to be difficult. It's difficult because the paper time is the constraint. That's the bottleneck for us, right? So if I give you a CAT paper, let's say for one complete day, I'm pretty sure you will come back and get a good score because you have 1 day's time to answer all these questions. But if I constrain that to 3 hours, that is where the problem starts to begin. So you have to be you have to be speedy. That's the most important aspect. You have to be speedy, and I think when you develop that speed, that is when you start scoring well in CAT, right? Because everyone knows how to calculate profit and loss. Everyone knows how to read a comprehension and answer the questions. We have been doing that since class 6th, I believe, or even before that. What is important that you have to gather that speed and answer these questions. I'll reiterate this for every section because I believe this is one very important point. So that is pretty much about the verbal ability part as well. I'll move on to the next section, which is VILR. And also the VILR section is timed for 1 hour, so you cannot skip it. You cannot save time in that section and probably devote time to other sections. That is not how it happens in CAT. It is blocked 1 hour, right? Now, when you give that 1 hour section, automatically you move on to the VILR section, which is data interpretation and logical reasoning. Now, remember those puzzles which you were asked in, let's say, which you used to read on Facebook, like, yes, there are 3 people who are walking, one is red, one is blue, one is green, there are 3 toffees, there are 3 houses, which one is whose house, which one, who likes which toffee, all those types of arrangements and weird puzzles that you used to see. I think that sums up what logical reasoning in DI is in CAT. There is no fixed pattern to it. No one can tell you that there would be next year there would be a question about cubes, about circular arrangement or linear arrangement. These are the topics within VILR. What people can tell you is that there would be 8 question sets. Within VILR, you have 8 question sets which have 4 questions each, essentially resulting in 32 questions. Right? Again, the negative marking pattern is same, +3 -1. You have certain questions wherein you type in the answer, they don't hold negative marking for those sort of questions. Now, when talking about DILR, let me break it down to data interpretation and logical reasoning. First off, about data interpretation. When you see a bar graph, this is the question essentially. You get a bar graph and you have to answer questions about it. Now, this seems easy, and it is, but the question again comes back to speed. When you see numbers such as 38,732, what percentage is this number of 2,72,000? These sort of figures are there in data interpretation questions that make it difficult. Even though you have an on-screen calculator, it certainly becomes difficult for you to calculate these numbers, and it takes time. So this is the problem in data interpretation. My suggestion for you would be to solve all these questions about data interpretation, which essentially are pie charts, bar graphs, or any sort of data graph or skill that you can think of. These come in DI part. My suggestion for you would be to develop your mathematical speed. So how do you do that? How I went about it was that I wrote 1/3, 1/4, up to 1/20, all those ratios on the study table that I was studying on, and pasted that on the study table so that I could see them and get used to these numbers. Because let's say you get 16.66% of 36. Now it seems very difficult, you have to use a calculator, but if you knew that it is 1/6, you can easily convert this into 1/6 into 36 and get the answer. So these sort of things help you out in this examination because it saves some precious time when you have those quick mathematical skills in your mind running, right? So this is how I go about DI. Now, a good source material for DI would again be the previous year papers. Now, why I say previous year papers is because when you practice questions in a normal manner, let's say from a random book, you don't get the level that CAT questions are of. So I believe VILR to be the most difficult section amongst these 3 sections, and that was because my mock scores always used to be volatile in these sections, in this section in particular. So you have to start preparing for it from the beginning itself. Probably go through a book if you want to, so that you get a basic idea about it. Then start practicing previous year questions. Again, we have a wide area of questions in the previous year, so don't fret over whether your question bank will get empty. I don't think it will, right? So this is DI part of it. For the logical reasoning, I think this is where the trouble begins. So for logical reasoning, there is no specific book or topic list. At least for DI, I could tell you that there are graphs, there are pie charts you have to study. In logical reasoning, it can be from anything. It can be anything under the sun which can come to you as a question. Though there are certain topics which people study, like linear arrangement, circular arrangement. You can Google these topic names to figure out what they actually mean, cube questions, and all that stuff. But again, these sort of questions rarely happen in CAT. Probably one question in CAT out of 8 sets is of this nature. But the rest of these questions of logical reasoning are something that you have not seen previously. So essentially, when you go in this particular section, you have to keep an open mind, right? And then choose whichever you think might be easiest for you. Now, how do you go about it? For DI-LR section in particular, out of the 1 hour that is allotted to you, you first spend about 10 minutes figuring out which sets would you do. So that when you're given those 8 sets, it is not at the whims and fancies of the test maker as to what you will attempt. It is up to you to decide, I will attempt set number 6 first, then I'll go to set number 4, then I'll come to set number 1, and then I'll go to set number 8 because this is the easiest for me. I'll not attempt set number 2 because that is very difficult. So it is for you to decide. How do you decide that? In the first 10 minutes, you read all the sets one by one. And then say, all right, this one seems easy, this one seems medium, this one seems difficult. Then you go about DI-LR section. Hence, you are taking a planned decision and planned route instead of being at the whims and fancies of the test maker. I think that's one important advice for DI-LR section, which I would like you to take home from this session. Moving on to the next part, which is the quantitative ability section. Again, we have 34 questions in this. We have +3, -1. Type in the answers. Don't have a negative marking in this. So for these, for this section in particular, I think I've worked the most for this section. And how I went about it was that I first attempted a mock test. I saw the level of the questions, and then I realized quantitative ability does not equal to maths. I think that's a big myth that is out there, that an individual who is not good at maths will always say that I am not good at QA. I think these two are not equivalent at all. Why? Because you don't have difficult topics such as integration and differentiation. You don't have those topics coming in. You have simple profit and loss questions. You have compound interest, simple interest questions coming up. You have geometry coming up, which is which we all learned in, I think, class 9, 10th. So you not come up to me and say that, okay, someone is an engineer who has studied mathematics for the past 4 years, whereas I might be a commerce graduate and hence I have not studied maths, so I won't be good at QA. No, that's not a good argument to make. That's not rational for me. That's rational for me, right? Because QA is not maths. Now, how should you go about preparing for this? There is a list of topics. It is generally confined. The topics don't vary much. There is geometry, there is logs, surds and indices, there is all these topics. There's a list of topics. Now, how do you figure out the list of topics? I think there are many resources available online. You can also go for Arun Sharma. You can also go for your coaching institute materials. Now, when you pick up these material or books, you will see a list of 20, 30 topics, I guess. And these are generally the topics that you see in those 34 questions. Right? This is generally an exhaustive list. So you don't have to worry about studying everything and anything under the sun. You don't have to worry about that. And that is what makes it slightly easy for us to do the QA section. Right? So when you start preparing for QA section, my one advice to you guys would be that don't study a lot of topics or go to or deep dive into topics. Study the surface of it and then practice that surface only. Don't scratch under the surface. There's no need for it. How do you know that? You look at the previous year papers. If you don't believe me, look at the previous year papers. The questions tend to be on the easy side. Out of those 34 questions, if you attempt about 16, 17 questions which are on the easy side, there are at least 20 questions which are easy. Easy in the sense that there's a 10% interest for 4 years. What is the value? Something of that sort can also come in CAT. And you should not be surprised if you see this question. So these sort of questions also turn up. And these are on the easy side. Something of that level, plus minus delta, comes in CAT. And the number of these questions are about 17, 18, 20. So out of 34 questions, 20 are on the easy side. So if you attempt those 20 questions and you get them correct, you get about 60, you get 60 marks, which makes you a 99 percentile in quant. That's for sure. About 60, 65 marks gets you about that 99 percentile. So you can figure that out, that if you attempt those easy questions plus 3-4 medium level questions, you don't even need to go to the difficult level questions at all. All you need to do is, when you see a question which is difficult, leave it. That's the suggestion that I would like to put forward to you guys. That this is not a test of your ego. You don't have to go in there that I have studied geometry a lot and I'll answer every single question of geometry. No, that's not going to happen. Don't do that, right? This is a question of how fast you can do a question. This is the question. This is a topic wherein you might be strong, but the time of the question is long. So you would not attend that question. This is how you go about it. You pick up that question if it's easy and can be done in a less amount of time. You do that question, otherwise you leave it. This is the basic suggestion for quantitative aptitude. Now, you don't have to scratch under the surface. You stick to the basic formulas out there. Now, my suggestion to you guys would be to make a formula booklet for quantitative aptitude. Now, why do I say so? Let's say there's a question about clocks. There's a question that I see a clock in the mirror and the time is shown this. What is the actual time? Now, if I were to give you time, you would probably look at a watch or imagine that watch and figure out the time. But let's say if you know the formula already, you will get that answer within 20-30 seconds. And the amount that you save would be utilized for difficult questions. So this is where the difference comes, I think, between the people who score high versus people who might not be able to score that high, is that probably they practiced those questions a lot. They had a formula in mind, and when they saw that question, they just directly applied the formula and they got the answer. Let me tell you, this is how CAT quant works. It's not as difficult as you think it is. I think the perception of CAT quant is much more, is that it's difficult, which I would like to break a myth if to say that it's not as difficult. So you have to have an idea about what sort of formulas are prevalent. Now, how do you get an idea about it? Look to the look for previous year, look for those books that you have, borrow it from your friends and everything. So this is how you get a good idea as to the level of questions. And then within that you figure out that, okay, so I'm good at, let's say, I'm good at this topic. I'm good at profit and loss. I'm not good at geometry. I was not good at geometry, by the way. So you figure this out that, okay, my strength lies here. I try to finish these questions. I'll probably come back to geometry questions. I'll skip them in the first round. Now, my suggestion to you guys would be to at least see all those 34 questions. By the way, you can skip to the next question in CAT without worrying about it. You can come back to the previous question. Within that section, obviously, if you are attending quant, you cannot go back to VARC. But within quant, you can go to question number 24 first, come back to question number 2, go to question number 34. You can have that skipping and roaming and dancing around. You can do that in quant particularly. Right? So when you see this, when you have this liberty of looking at skipping questions, right, I would say that you utilize it. How do you utilize it? Then when you find that question number 2 would take time, you skip to question number 3. You mark that question for review and come back to it. When you see that question number 4 is difficult and you cannot do it, skip that question. If in the end you have time, you might attempt it, but for now, skip that question. My suggestion to you guys would be that you at least try to reach the 34 question mark, right? So this is pretty much about these 3 sections: VAR, DILR, quant. And now I'll move on to the most important aspect of CAT, which I feel, apart from these sections, is the test taking strategy, right? I believe the difference between, let's say, a topper, an all-India topper, and someone who scored a 99 percentile or 98 percentile is that on that day, the strategies that they implemented, both of them had a similar amount of knowledge and the skills for doing these sort of questions, but the strategies implemented by someone who scored high marks was slightly different. And I had a couple of them, which I would like to share with you guys so that you can probably score higher marks than your peers in terms, if you have the same skills, right? So how you go about it is that it's a 3-hour test. You don't have to score 100% marks. You have to score 1 more mark than your nearest competitor. That's how you go about it, right? So when you have this attitude in mind, you know that when you see a question and it is difficult, advice number 1, skip it, ignore it. Doesn't matter. You have 100 questions in all. If you skip about 20-30 of them, you would still be a 99 percentile. By the way, out of 300 marks in my year, I think we had a 99 percentile at 160 marks or 150 marks. So about 50% marks give you 99 percentile. So you know the drill, right? So now you know that even if you skip 30-40% of questions and your accuracy, you lose 10% of questions in your accuracy, you still have 50% to get a 99 percentile. And that's a good benchmark to have. 99 percentile is when you get calls from all these IIM institutes, right? So that's a good benchmark to have. So step one, keep your ego aside. Look at the question. If you feel that, even if you know that this might take time, skip that question. Step two, when I say it's a 3-hour test, I would like you to sit down for 3 hours and attempt that paper in front of a laptop. Now, when you're giving mock tests, don't take them lightly. Don't take a printout and then you start attempting those papers. If you want the mock test to give you the right results, do it in a format that you would actually give a CAT in. Lock yourself in a room, ask your family not to disturb you, which is difficult considering the pandemic that we guys might be preparing in. But yeah, try to do that. Try to create a silent space for 3 hours. Attempt it via laptop. Don't use a phone and everything. Stay there for 3 hours, right? And essentially, when you're nearing your exam date, you get your admit card. So you also know your time slots as well. What I did was in the last 30 days of my examination, I attempted one mock test a day in a specific time period. I think it was 2:30 to 5:30 p.m. for me. I attempted one test in that time period. And so that I can calibrate my body according to the time I would be giving the paper in. So that is how I went about it. It's very important that you should not, let's say, be in afternoon siesta mode when you're giving CAT paper. That's not going to happen, right? You're not going to score as much as you should. So you have to take care of all these aspects as well, which are softer in nature but very important for you. Another test taking strategy is that you focus a lot on mock test. Yes, you should do that. Now, why do I say so? Is because right now when you do a book, you will not realize what your strength and what your weakness is. Let's see, do you guys ever face a problem when you, let's say, complete a topic, but when you start doing the questions, you're not able to do the questions? This happens to everyone. This even happens to toppers. So don't worry about it. This is bound to happen. What is important is that you don't take it too hard and go out and practice more. I think that's one important aspect of every individual who scores high, that you practice a lot. You don't get bogged down by all those answers which you cannot, all those questions which you cannot answer, right? So you have to take care of this. You have to, you would face questions which are not as, which you have prepared for, but you still cannot answer, right? So when you go about mock test, when you attend that mock test for 3 hours, I would ask you to put in about 2 to 3 more hours to analyze that mock test, right? Now, what I mean by analyzing? I mean by analyzing that obviously the questions you could not attempt or got incorrect, you have to go back and attempt them again. But even the questions that you got correct, but you realize that it was more of a fluke than, let's say, a good planned out process. You go back to those questions, attempt those questions again, and figure out attempting a mock test for analyzing part of it and analyzing part of it. Again, to add something to analyzing, I believe you should keep a question bank that you would like to, let's say, go back again and do that question again in the last week. So you keep on marking, you keep on writing those questions somewhere or the other. So in the last week, you can probably go back to the question that this question was nice, it was important, was something that I should have known, and go back and practice these questions. This is how you go about the analyzing part of it. I think one last aspect about test taking is that in this journey of about 6-7 months, that's how long it takes to prepare. Generally, I started in the month of March. The exam was in April. Exam was in November. You can start plus minus 1 month or even plus 2 months. You can start in May as well. That's not an issue. But I think March was a good time to start for me, and I think that's a decent amount of time to prepare for CAT examination. One important thing that happens is that during the 6-month period, you get you sometimes in the middle of this journey, you feel disappointed about your marks, that you're preparing well, you're preparing hard, but you're not getting enough score in the mock test. I would like to tell you that this happens to everyone. This happens to everyone who goes through the process. And you have essentially 2 options. Either you get stressed about it and leave the preparation, probably look for a job or something of that sort, or focus on a job, or you can start putting in more hours and get more marks. Now, I know it sounds easy, but I've been through it, so I can say that as well. That if you follow the second option, which is working harder towards that goal, you do score well in those marks. One way out of this stressed out period is to talk to your friends, form a group of people who who you can like talk to about CAT examination, who are preparing for CAT examination with the same vigor as you guys are. I think a lot of my friends helped me out in preparing for CAT from undergrad college. So especially these people help you out in figuring out which, in getting you through that goal, through that stressful period towards that goal. I think that's a very important aspect of it. So yeah, that's pretty much it from my side in terms of how you go about preparing, section-wise, basic strategy about tests. You require about 6 months. It can also be done in 4 to 5 months if you put in the hours for it. And yes, the important lesson underneath all this was that you don't have to score 100% marks. You have to score just 1 mark more than the competitor, and this is how you go about it. You bring your speed, keep your side. So I think that's pretty much it from my side. Abhishek, back to you.
Thanks a lot for that, Lakshya. I think that was a very, very detailed session, and I think you've very nicely covered everything that someone should know about this exam before they start preparing for it. So thanks a lot for that, and thanks for sharing your personal experience with the exam too. I do have a couple of questions. So my first question is actually, I think, it's I think a question that almost every single person who's planning to take the CAT asks themselves at some point of time, and that is, how important do you think it is to actually get yourself enrolled with some coaching center or training center for this exam? And do you really think it makes a substantial difference in your performance?
Right, I'll tell you what. So I believe a coaching institute adds value in a different way, and you can also get that value when you are not enrolled in a coaching institute. Now, what value am I talking about? Is that there is a specific list of topics allowed. There's a specific number of topics that you have to study. Right? If you get those topics from, let's say, websites, and there are websites about it, or you can get those topics from your coaching institute mentors and everything. If you are able to do that online as well, I think you don't need a coaching institute. For me, but I would definitely say that you guys pick up a mock test series from any coaching institute. It can be Time, it can be IMS, it can be Career Launcher. It doesn't matter. What matters is that in real time you are figuring out where you stand. What's your percentile as compared to the people who are giving CAT this year? I think mock test series gives you an idea about it. Coming back to the actual question in hand, which was about the coaching institutes. I believe the books are the value addition more than the mentors and teachers. Though you can go for doubts, but if you have any other source for it, let's say your friends are very helpful and they can answer all your doubts, then I think that's more than enough. You don't need a coaching institute per se for that. So doubts and books are the most important aspect of a coaching institute. Mock test series is something that I would suggest you guys all buy. So that's for the coaching institute. Does that answer your question, Abhishek?
Yep, it definitely does, Lakshya. Thanks for that. And I think my second question is actually with respect to just balancing your CAT prep, because there's a lot of people who come out and say that preparing for CAT could be very, very stressful and takes a lot of time. So how do you think a student like yourself could balance it when they're in their final year of their undergraduate degree, for somebody else who's probably juggling it with a job?
Right, I think that's a very fair question, man. So during my third year, I was also sitting for placements at my undergraduate college. I was fortunate enough to get placed in one of the first few companies that comes out of campus. So that helped me get time for preparation. Now, for those who are also struggling to balance between these two aspects, job versus CAT, I would suggest that you focus on both. You should not drop one aspect completely. Like, let's say you forget about job completely and stick to CAT. That is not a suggestion I would give to you guys. Now, why is that? Because CAT marks and results are very volatile. I would not want you to be in a position where you are not able to, you have to go, you should have backup options. That's a job for you, right? So you have to balance between the two. Now, how you go about it is that the preparation for companies and job essentially takes place with the help of your seniors, with the help of the individuals who are actually preparing for the company, who have been through the process, are your seniors or are your friends who are preparing for, let's say, case studies for consulting firms. So how you go about is that I devoted my time within the college to those preparation activities. And before the major companies are coming up, I took a 2-week to 3-week break and prepared for those companies specifically. What helped me was during the May-June break, I devoted a lot of time towards this CAT preparation, and I was at a decent level. Hence, I could take a 1-month break for this job purpose, then get a job, and then go back to CAT preparation. This is what helped me. So I would suggest that if you start early, that's where your advantage comes in. This is where your advantage comes in, that you build up a base, take a break for 1 month for the job, 1 or 2 months for the job, get back to the CAT. And I think it comes after you're preparing, after you're prepared for 1 month for a job, there comes a time when you don't need to prepare to get an extend for any new company that comes in. You have to just tweak some answers that you have, study some more about that industry in particular, but that does not take time. So when you put in that 1 month of building that knowledge for your jobs, I think plus minus 2-3 days for every company that comes in next is more than enough for you. So I think that is how you go about balancing these activities. So I suggest that you start early so that you can balance the job aspect of it as well.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, and that definitely answers the question too. So thanks for that, Lakshya. And I think that brings me to the end of the Q&A session and also to this session. So I would just like to take this opportunity, Lakshya, on behalf of Team Plant, to thank you for taking the time out for this wonderful session. I'm sure this is going to be very, very useful for future aspirants. So thanks a lot.
All right, thank you. And I would like to thank your team for this particular session as well. I believe that's a good job. People out there have difficulty pursuing whatever they want to, and I think information asymmetry is a lot, particularly in India. So that's a good job, guys. I really appreciate what you guys are doing. So yeah.
Thanks a lot, Lakshya. Means a lot.
All right, guys.